Yo, what's up, my fellow immortals? Welcome back to The Source. I'm your host, Russell Nash, and this is the #1 spot for Highlander The Card Game. I just want to give a quick update on where I've been. I know I've been MIA for a little while, but as life goes, things happen. I'm getting married soon. I started a new job. I moved into my new house. So all of that kind of stuff has made making videos for y'all kind of difficult. But as it's gone, it's kind of evened out. So I'd like to start making a video, every week, dropping one new video, every week for y'all. And, I'd like to get back into the groove of things. So if y'all have any ideas or suggestions on stuff that y'all want me to talk about or any topics that you want me to cover, please drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know. I really want this to be a community type thing where we're bouncing ideas off of each other and I'm talking about stuff that y'all are really interested in. That would be really great for me, to make the channel more something that y'all really enjoy watching and that y'all are really interested in. I want to give a quick shout out to two people before we jump into it. The first one's going to be David Detlefs. David, thank you so much for the idea for this video. I was going through the play group and I was asking everybody, maybe if they had any suggestions or any ideas on what they might want me to talk about. And David threw it out there. David was like, hey, why don't you do a video on the basics of deck building? I thought that was a really good idea. I thought it was a solid idea. And the other guys, they thought, hey, they might want to see something like that. And I think it might benefit people who are having a hard time, deciding where to start when it comes to building your decks. So David, thanks for that. The second person I want to shout out is Stephen Rice. Stephen is a longtime veteran player of the game. He's been playing since the very beginning. Stephen is an excellent player. I'm proud to call Steve my friend. He's also on the official rules committee. He's designed many immortals for the game. He's designed some amazing things, some great cards, some great immortals. Stephen actually wrote an article on the Highlander Weebly Site, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below so y'all can go and check that article out for yourself. Steve wrote an article called Deck Building 101, and it's probably the best article that you can find out there, besides this video, about how to go about building a deck for Highlander. So I'm going to be referencing the article and I'm going to be talking about my own personal experiences. So, everybody go check that article out after you get done watching the video. It's invaluable. I think everyone who's going to be playing this game or who plays this game currently, from beginners to veteran players, you should read that article or refresh yourself on that article. So, Steve, thank you so much for writing that. And like I said, I just want to give credit to those guys. Credit's due where it's due. So thank you guys so much for that. And, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. All right, y'all, the basics of deck building for Highlander. This video is targeted really for Highlander 2nd edition, right? Now, a lot of this concepts and this stuff is going to hold true for many of the other formats of the game, from 1st edition to Type 1, but this really is for Highlander 2nd edition. So keep that in mind when you're going to be watching this video and you're going to be building your deck. So if you're playing 1st edition, you can use a lot of this stuff, but it's really intended for players that are playing Highlander 2nd edition, okay? So the first step when building a successful deck is choosing your concept or your theme, right? Your concept or your theme is the foundation upon which, the foundation upon whether or not your deck is going to be successful. And there are many different themes or concepts that you can find in Highlander the Card Game. I'm going to give you 4 examples so you kind of understand what I mean when I say a theme or a concept, right? So the first theme or concept that I'm going to talk about is the Power Blow deck, the Power Blow theme, right? I like to call this the beef deck, the beef grade A top sirloin deck, right? You're going to be power blowing your opponent every single turn. That's the concept. That's the theme. Just power blow every single turn. You're going to let the chips fall where they may, and you're going to say, hey, I'm power blowing every single turn. Deal with it. What are you going to do? Here comes another power blow. That's the theme of the deck, right? Top sirloin, grade A, beef deck, power blow, right? That's the theme of that deck. The second theme I'd like to talk about is the multi-attack deck, right? The multi-attack theme. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to be throwing out 2 or 3 or more attacks every single turn, and you're going to be making those attacks hard to deal with. You're going to say, hey, I'm throwing out 3 attacks. What are you going to do? right? 3 attacks are going to be coming this turn. 2 or 3 are going to be coming next turn. So what are you going to do to deal with it, right? Now, the third example of a concept or a theme that you can find in Highlander is a little bit different than the other ones. This is the cheese deck, right? The cheese theme. That's what I like to call it, right? Cheese deck. Now, the cheese deck or the cheese theme is a little bit different, where you're going to be playing cards that are just going to be doing direct damage to your opponent. There's a lot of cards in the game that just flat out say your opponent takes 3 damage or your opponent loses 2 ability. That's the mozzarella cheese, right? That's what you're doing. You're just cheesing them down. You're melting them down with melted cheese and you're saying you're taking 3 damage. What are you going to do to stop it, right? Now, the fourth and final example I'd like to give of a concept or theme that you can find in Highlander, there's many more, but the fourth and final one is going to be your stall deck, right? Your stall deck or theme is where you're building a wall of protection around yourself. You're stalling your opponent out until you maneuver them right where you want them, and then right where you have them where you want them, you launch an all-out barrage or assault, and you do as much damage as you can, or you take their head and you win the game. So those are just 4 quick examples of the many different themes or concepts that you can find in Highlander. There's many more than 4, but I just wanted to touch on those so y'all can kind of understand what I mean when I say choose your theme or your concept, whether it be power blow, multi-attack, mozzarella cheese, or the stall deck, right? So those are some concepts or themes that you can choose from. So the next step after you've chosen your theme is, how are you going to pull off your concept? How are you going to make this work? What are you going to do to accomplish your theme, right? So what you're going to want to do is take a look at all of the cards in the game that specifically have to do with your theme or your concept, right? And group those cards together and choose the best cards from the cards that have to do with your theme. Choose the best ones that you feel would accomplish your goal the best, right? After you've done that, choose your immortal, okay? Choose the immortal that's going to work best with your theme, okay? A lot of times I found that some people, they might like certain immortals over others. And what they'll do is they'll choose this immortal because they like that immortal, but that immortal isn't really going to support their concept or their theme, right? So don't do that. That's a mistake. You want to choose an immortal that's going to execute your theme or your concept the best, right? So after you've gone ahead and you've chosen your theme, you've looked at all the cards, you've chosen the cards, you've picked your immortal, the next step would be figuring out how many times you're going to need to put those cards in play to execute your theme. You're going to want to see how many turns you want to put those specific cards into play to execute your theme or your concept. And right away, this is going to tell you a rough guesstimate of how many cards you're going to start with in building your deck, right? So after you've done those things, right, you've chosen a theme, you've looked at all the cards, you've chosen the best ones you want, you've chosen the immortal that's going to execute your theme the best, you've seen how many times you might need to put those cards into play. The next step after that is building your toolbox. Now, your toolbox cards are going to be cards that are supporting you, that are supporting your theme, that are also mitigating what your opponent is trying to do to you. Now, it might seem daunting choosing these cards, but really it's kind of easy if you take a look at what your biggest weaknesses are in your theme, right? So for example, you could be really strong against multi-attack, but you could be really weak against power blow, right? So you're going to want to take a look at your biggest weaknesses and fill out your toolbox cards and cover those bases. Now, you can't cover every single base, but you want to go ahead and try to cover your biggest weaknesses, right? So figure out what your biggest weaknesses are and fill out your toolbox cards and try to cover all of those bases. From my personal experience, I have found that there are certain support cards or toolbox cards that are going to go in every one of my decks, regardless of what theme or concept that I'm using. I made a video a while back on the best support cards to use in Highlander, and if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that out because I think that it's going to provide you with some invaluable insight. But I'll give you a couple of examples of toolbox cards that go in every one of my decks, no matter what theme or immortal that I'm using. So the first one is going to be a misfortune. Now, a misfortune is going to allow you to remove an object from play, whether it be your own object or your opponent's object, right? Your opponent might have an object in play that's restricting you from doing something, and you don't want that. So you're going to play your misfortune. It's a toolbox card. It's there to support you. It's going to get rid of that object, okay? The second support card or toolbox card that goes in every single one of my decks, no matter theme or concept, is a police card. And the police card does something similar that the misfortune does, is it's going to get rid of one of your opponent's or your own situations in play, right? Your opponent might have a situation in play that's restricting you or allowing them to do something, and you want to be able to get rid of that so you can continue on with your theme and imposing your will upon them. That's what it's all about, playing your game. So a police card is going to allow you to do that. Now, the third example that I'm going to give you of a support card or a toolbox card that's going to go in every single one of my decks is an alertness. Now, alertness is going to allow you to be able to block an unblockable attack or dodge an undodgeable attack. That's pretty strong. You want to have those cards in your deck, no matter the theme, no matter the concept. They're always going to help you when it comes to stuff like that, right? So after you've chosen a theme, after you've looked at all of the cards that go best with your theme, after you've chosen your immortal, and after you've built your toolbox cards, you should at this point have your first rough draft deck put together, right? You should have at least the very first iteration of your deck put together. So the next step would be testing this deck. And you don't have to test this deck against a live opponent. That's going to come later. You can test it by yourself, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to shuffle your deck as many times as you feel that would give you the best randomized hand, okay? You don't want all of your defenses in your hand and no attacks, or all toolbox and no defenses, or all attacks and toolbox but no defenses. So you're going to want to shuffle your deck until you have the best randomized hand, okay? And after you've done that, okay, what I like to do is I like to go through, and I like to go through the process of determining who's going to go first after I have a sufficient shuffle. So I go through the process of determining who's going to go first in Highlander 2nd Edition, right? So you're going to call out your attribute. I'm going to choose strength. I'm going to choose toughness, agility, whatever it may be, okay? So then you're going to take the top 5 cards off of your endurance or your deck, and you're going to look at how many of those attributes that you get out of those 5 cards, and that right away should tell you if you've shuffled your deck sufficiently, okay? So after you've done that process, you've determined who's going to go first, okay? I like to draw a full hand, okay? I draw up to my full ability, and I'm looking at what cards I got, right? So after I draw my full hand, what I like to do after that is I like to play out the cards from the hand that I've drawn, okay? So I'll play out those cards, and then I'll redraw to my full ability, and I'll do it again. And what this is doing is it's really simulating a battle between you and your opponent. Now, there's no one that you're playing against, but what you're doing is you're anticipating what your opponent might do. So, and I'll do that for about 5 or 6 turns. So I'll play out my defenses, my toolbox cards, and my attacks, and I'll continue to do that for about 5 or 6 turns. And then I'll reshuffle everything, and I'll do the same process over and over and over again. And what you're really looking for here is, Steve likes to talk about this in the article, and I found it to be true 100%, is consistency. You're looking for consistency in your theme. Are you consistently getting the cards that you need to successfully pull off your theme? Is your theme being adequately represented when you draw your hand? Are you able to pull off your theme as well as play the toolbox cards that you need, as well as have the defense cards that you need to continue to stay in the game, right? Consistency is the key. You want to consistently pull off your theme, right? So after you've done this, you're going to figure out which cards you're getting too many of, what you're not getting enough of. So go ahead and take some notes and just realize, think about, okay, I'm getting a lot of this, but I'm not getting enough of this, right? So that might tell you that your deck is a little too big, or you're rolling a little too heavy on a certain card and not enough of another. So go ahead at that point and take some out, add some in, and tweak it when you're doing these things, right? That's what that's for, right? You're looking for consistency. Am I getting enough of this? Am I not getting enough of this? What do I need to do, right? So I would say after you have chosen your theme or your concept, right? You've looked at all the cards in the game that go well with your theme or your concept. You've chosen the immortal that you want to do. You've built out your toolbox card. You've shuffled your deck. You've played through it. You've simulated a game. You've gone through it, a couple of turns. You've done it over and over again. You've taken some out. You've added some. I would say the last step that you need to do when building a successful deck is playing a live opponent. When you play someone live, when you're playing against a live opponent, they're going to do things that you couldn't simulate or anticipate on your own, and that's really important. So I wouldn't suggest playing your deck for the first time in a tournament setting, because that's really not the best time to play that deck for the first time, right? So choose a buddy that you play with regularly and, test out your deck. And as the game goes on, take some notes, see what you're getting too much of, see what you're not getting enough of, see what cards are hurting you. And this might show you that, hey, I thought my biggest weakness was this, but it's really not. So that's really important, right? The final step would be playing a live opponent, because they're going to do things that you haven't anticipated, right? So that's really, really important when it comes to building a deck. After you've gotten everything done, you've built it, you've put it together, you've play tested it on your own, play a live opponent and see how it plays and modify it and go from there, okay? And I just want to touch on, my final thoughts when it comes to something like this. And this is really, really important. I think it might be one of the most important things when it comes to building a successful deck. Steve talks about this in the article. That article is invaluable. I really can't stress enough. I want everyone that's watching this video to go and read that article. I've read it a million times, after countless games that I've played. I've had my head taken, a million times. I've taken my fair share of heads. I've won some, I've lost some. This is really one of the most important things, and it comes down to play style, right? Play style. Everyone has their own play style that they like to play, right? If you're the type of person that really wants to throw out the beef, you want to throw out the top sirloin beef, the big fat steak, and you like power blows, then build a theme and a concept around power blows. That's your play style. That's what you like to do. If you're the type of person that likes the mozzarella cheese and you want to melt them down with the Velveeta, then go ahead and do so. Build a deck to your play style. And I found that once I started doing that and I built decks that suited my play style the best, I found more success. I had more fun. I built better decks and I won more games. So it can't be stressed enough when it comes to play style. Figure out what your own play style is and then start building decks. You'll see that you build better decks. You'll see that you'll start winning more games. You'll start having more fun. And that's what it's ultimately about, is having fun, building good decks, and enjoying your time playing this game. That's what it's really about. So figure out your play style, and it really can't be stressed enough. Go check that article out, right? And I just want to say, once again, thanks to Steve and thanks to David for recommending the video. Thanks to Steve for writing the article. Man, if you liked this video, leave it a thumbs up. If you hated this video, leave it a thumbs down. I really hope this was able to, share some insight on where to start when it comes to building decks, right? Because I think a lot of people get bogged down on that. They don't really know where to start. So, if you liked it, leave a thumbs up. If you hated it, leave a thumbs down. Give me a shout out in the comments and tell me what you guys want me to talk about. Like I said in the beginning, I want this to be a community thing. I want us to talk about stuff that y'all are interested in. It gives me pleasure when I get to make videos about stuff that y'all are interested in, right? That's a big thing for me. So just let me know what y'all think in the comments. Maybe, we can talk about something that a deck or something like that y'all want to see. As always, be on the lookout for that next video. Consider becoming an immortal today and hitting that subscribe button. Don't lose your heads out there. And remember, there can be only one collectible card game.